$3. That is what one full season of liquid feed just cost me to make. Not 30, not 300, 3. Picture it. It is a Saturday morning. The coffee is still hot. You walk out across the grass in bare feet, and the dew is cold, and for a second everything feels right. Then you look down, and there it is again. That same tired, washed out, yellow-green color. The patch by the path that never thickens up, the streaks where the lawn looks hungry no matter what you pour on it. And here is the part nobody in that garden aisle will ever say out loud. The bottle you keep buying, the one with the bright label and the trigger sprayer and the promise of a greener lawn in 3 days, is mostly water. You are paying premium money to ship water across the country to your front door. The lawn care industry figured out a long time ago that you will pay for convenience, for a nice label, and for the feeling that you are doing something. They are not lying to you exactly. They are just letting you believe the expensive bottle is the only door into a green lawn. And every single year, it is the same story, isn't it? Spring comes, you spend the money, you spray, it greens up for a week or two, then it fades, and you are back in that aisle again, reading the same labels, reaching for your wallet again. You feed it, and it still looks thin, still looks pale, still looks like everyone else's lawn on the street, except the one house where the grass looks like a carpet. So let me be blunt with you. Most people are feeding their lawn completely wrong. They buy the wrong form at the wrong price, and they apply it at the wrong time in the wrong amount. They pour on a ready-to-spray bottle, they scatter a handful of granules by eye, they water it in and hope, and nothing really changes because the thing that actually drives a deep, thick, dark green lawn was never in that bottle at the price they paid. So here is what I am going to do. I tested the cheapest liquid fertilizer it is physically possible to make at home, and I am going to show you exactly what it is, what it costs per gallon, and how it stacks up against the bottle you have been buying. We are going to break this into two halves. First, why the liquid feed most people buy is quietly robbing them, and how to fix your color fast. Then, the cheap homemade mix, measured out to the gram, that does the same job for pennies. And then, at the very end, there is one final approach. It is the entire reason I made this video. It is the thing that stops the yellow coming back at all, and almost nobody does it. I am not going to name it yet. You will know it when we get there. But first, let me ask you something that might sting a little. You believe that liquid fertilizer feeds your lawn, right? What if I told you that most of the time it barely feeds the soil at all? Part one is the problem that brings most people here in the first place, and that is the pale, yellow, hungry-looking lawn that just will not green up no matter how much you spend. This one matters most because it is the most emotional. It is the one you see every morning. It is the one the neighbors see too. Here's what you instinctively do. You see yellow, so you think the grass is hungry, so you feed it more. You grab a ready-to-use hose end bottle, you connect it, and you walk the lawn while it sprays. It feels productive. You can smell it. You can see the lawn looking wet and fed. And for about 10 days, it works. The grass perks up, the color deepens, and you feel like a genius. But here is what is actually happening beneath your feet. That hose end bottle is built around a tiny amount of actual nutrients suspended in a huge amount of water. A typical ready-to-spray lawn feed runs around 12% nitrogen at most, and a lot of the cheap ones are far less. When you spray it, the nitrogen that lands on the leaf blade gives you that fast green flush because grass can absorb a little nitrogen straight through the leaf. That is the trick. That is the magic that sells the bottle. But it is a leaf response, not a root response. It is a paint job, not a foundation. Within 2 to 3 weeks, that quick-release nitrogen is used up or washed past the roots by your watering and the rain, and the color drains right back out. So you buy another bottle and another, you are not feeding a lawn. You are renting a color. So let me turn that belief upside down for you. A green lawn is not built on the leaf. It is built in the soil. And the cheapest way to feed the soil is almost never the pretty bottle on the shelf. Now here is how you actually fix the color, ordered from the simplest thing you can do today to the most thorough. The simplest move costs you almost nothing. Go and buy 1 bag of granular urea. Urea is 46% nitrogen, the highest concentration of any common nitrogen source you can buy, and a 50-pound bag costs somewhere around $20 to $25. That single bag holds more actual nitrogen than dozens of those little ready-to-spray bottles stacked together. You can broadcast it dry with a spreader at roughly half a pound of product per 1,000 square feet for a gentle feed, and water it in within 24 hours so it does not gas off into the air. That is the floor. That is the cheapest feed there is. The next step up is to take that same urea and dissolve it, because that is the actual secret behind a liquid feed. Urea is fully water soluble. You can mix it into water and spray it, and now you have a liquid fertilizer that is identical in chemistry to the expensive bottle, except you control the strength and you paid pennies. I will give you the exact mix in part 2, measured out, so do not run off and guess the amount, because guessing the amount is exactly how people burn their lawn. The most advanced version, the one that gives you color without the surge and crash, is to blend a fast source with a slow one. You spray a light dose of dissolved urea for the quick green, and at the same time you put down a slow-release granular feed, the kind coated so it releases over 8 to 12 weeks. The liquid gives you color this week. The slow release feeds the roots for the next 2 months. Now the green does not drain away because something is always feeding the soil underneath. And I want to be very clear about what is at stake if you keep doing the leaf-only thing. You are not just wasting money, though you are wasting plenty. You are training your lawn to live shallow. A lawn fed only on the surface grows roots that stay near the surface because that is where the food keeps arriving. Then the first hot, dry week of summer hits, the top inch of soil bakes out, and that shallow-rooted lawn browns and thins in days. You spend weeks watching it struggle and weeks more nursing it back. The pale color was never the real problem. It was the warning light. So here is your one universal prevention tip for this whole first half. Always water in any nitrogen feed within a day of applying it, whether it is liquid or granular, because nitrogen sitting dry on a hot leaf is what scorches the tips and gives you those ugly brown streaks people blame on disease. And quickly, because this is exactly the kind of thing nobody tells you standing in the garden aisle. If this is useful to you, take 1 second and subscribe. That is genuinely all I am asking. Everything on this channel is this, the stuff the label leaves off on purpose. Subscribe and you will not have to go back to guessing. Right, back to it. And if you want to go even deeper than what I can fit into a single video, I put together something that covers all of this and a lot more. I wrote a set of guides, the Amish Lawn Guide, the Amish Soil Guide, and the Complete Amish Yard Field Edition that walk through the full system behind a lawn that feeds itself soil by soil, season by season. These are the methods most people never find because nobody is selling them in a bright bottle at the garden center. You can find them linked in the description for $97, and honestly, 1 season of applying what is in there pays for it many times over. But right now, let us get into the part that is actually going to save you the most money this season. Part 2 is a completely different problem, and I need you to understand why it is different, because this is where the real money is hiding. Part 1 was about color, Part 2 is about cost and control, and it is the actual reason the title of this video says cheapest. Here is the thesis: plain and hard. You can make a liquid fertilizer at home that matches a $40 bottle for under $3 a season, and the only reason you do not is that nobody ever showed you the recipe. But first, the universal mistake, because this one can cost you the whole lawn. Most people, when they finally do mix their own feed, mix it far too strong. They think if a little is good, more is better, so they dump in a big scoop, spray it on a warm afternoon, and feel great about it. Then 3 days later, the lawn is streaked with yellow and brown burn lines that follow exactly where they walked. That is fertilizer burn. And it is not a feeding problem, it is a chemistry problem. Nitrogen is a salt. When you put down too much salt around the grass roots, the salt pulls water out of the plant by simple osmosis faster than the roots can pull water in. The grass literally dries out from the inside while sitting in wet soil, and that burn does not bounce back in a week. A bad burn can take 6 to 8 weeks to grow out, sometimes a whole season, and the worst patches you end up reseeding. So the entire game with a cheap homemade liquid is getting the dose right. Light and frequent always beats heavy and rare. So here are the methods, cheapest first, and I want you to actually write the numbers down. Method 1 is the pure urea spray, and this is the cheapest real liquid fertilizer on earth. Take that 50-pound bag of urea you bought for around $20. To feed 1,000 square feet of lawn at a safe light rate, you dissolve about 3 ounces of urea, that is roughly 3 level tablespoons, into 1 gallon of water, and you spray that gallon evenly across that 1,000 square feet. That works out to about 1/10 of a pound of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet, which is a gentle foliar dose that greens without burning. The reason it works is that the urea dissolves into a form the leaf takes up almost immediately, and at that light rate the salt concentration is far too low to pull water out of the plant, so you get the color with zero burn risk. Do the maths on cost. That 50-pound bag holds enough nitrogen for dozens and dozens of those gallons. Your cost per feed lands at a few cents. A whole season of spraying every 2 to 3 weeks comes in under $3. That is the number from the start of this video, and now you know it is real. Method 2 is the same spray with one cheap upgrade that fixes the one weakness urea has. Urea greens the top growth, but a lawn under stress also wants a little iron and a little magnesium to deepen that color and harden the plant against heat. So into that same gallon, you add about half an ounce of Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate, and costs a few dollars for a bag that lasts years. Magnesium sits at the center of the chlorophyll molecule, the green pigment itself, so feeding a touch of magnesium with your nitrogen gives you a darker, richer green rather than just a faster one. You will see the difference most on sandy soils and on lawns that have been fed cheap, fast nitrogen for years and run low on the minor nutrients. Still pennies per gallon, still nothing close to the bottle price. Method 3 is the one a professional would actually reach for when they want that deep, almost blue-green color the lawn care companies charge a premium for, and that is adding a true iron source. You buy a small bottle of chelated iron. The chelated part matters because it stays available to the plant instead of locking up in the soil, and you add it to your urea spray at the rate on the container, usually a very small amount per gallon. Iron does not feed the lawn the way nitrogen does. It does something cleaner. It deepens the color dramatically without pushing a flush of fast growth, which means you get a darker lawn that you do not have to mow twice as often. That is the trick behind almost every professional dark green lawn you have ever envied. It was never more nitrogen. It was iron. A single bottle of chelated iron costs around $15 to $20 and lasts most lawns a full year or longer. Even adding that, your homemade liquid is a fraction of the bottled stuff, and it outperforms it because you are feeding the leaf and the soil and the color all at once on your terms at your strength. And notice the climb here. Method 1 is the bare floor, pure nitrogen for pennies. Method 2 adds the green deepening magnesium. Method 3 adds the professional iron finish. Each step costs a little more and gives you a lot more, and even the top of that ladder is cheaper than one season of trigger bottles. Part 3, prevention. This is the approach I sealed away at the start. The entire reason this video exists, and here it finally is. Everything we have talked about so far feeds the lawn. This last thing feeds the thing that feeds the lawn, and that is the soil itself. The single most powerful, cheapest, most ignored move you can make is to stop chasing color and start building soil biology. And you do it with one tool that costs almost nothing. Liquid compost extract, or in plain terms, a homemade compost tea poured or sprayed across your grass. Here is why it works mechanically in one breath. Your lawn does not actually eat fertilizer directly the way you think. Soil microbes break down nutrients and hand them to the roots in a form the plant can use, and a soil starved of those microbes leaks fertilizer straight past the roots, which is exactly why you keep having to feed it again. When you add a living compost extract, you are pouring billions of those microbes back into the soil, and they start unlocking the nutrients already sitting there for free. The material is just finished compost, a couple of handfuls, steeped in a bucket of water, ideally rainwater or water left out overnight so the chlorine gas is off for about 24 hours, then strained and watered straight onto the lawn. Cost, effectively zero, because you are using compost you can make from kitchen scraps and grass clippings. Do this 2 or 3 times a season and you steadily cut how much fertilizer you need at all because the soil starts feeding itself. Over a year, That one habit can easily save you $50 to $100 in product and save you the dozen wasted trips to the store. And it is the only one of these that gets better every single year instead of needing to be repeated forever. So which one is for you? If you have a small front lawn and you just want it green for the weekend without thinking too hard, mix the simple method, 1 urea spray, 3 tablespoons to the gallon, and you are done for pennies. If you have a bigger property and you have been frustrated for years that the color never lasts, go with method 2 or 3. Add the magnesium and the chelated iron and feed light every 2 to 3 weeks. And if you are the type who wants to fix this once and stop buying anything at all, you start the compost extract now and let the soil take over the job the bottle was failing to do. Now, here is the new problem you are about to walk straight into, because everyone who fixes their color with a cheap nitrogen spray hits it. Once your lawn greens up and starts growing fast and thick, it gets hungry in a new way and it starts thinning at the base and growing tall and soft instead of dense. And that soft growth is exactly what weeds and disease move into first. That is a thatch indensity problem, and it is a whole different fix. So if your lawn is greening up but still feels thin when you run your hand across it, drop a comment and just type the word thin, that one word, so I know to make this for you. The next video shows exactly how to thicken a thin lawn from the roots up cheaply, the same way we did this. Subscribe so it lands in front of you when it goes live, because if you fix the color and ignore the density, you will be right back where you started by next spring. Type thin, subscribe. I will see you in the next one. And one more thing before you go, because it is the question I get every single time, and it will save you a ruined afternoon. When you spray any of these mixes, do it in the early morning or the cool of the evening, never in the middle of a hot day. Here is why that matters mechanically. When the sun is high and the leaf is hot, the water in your spray evaporates in minutes. And the moment the water is gone, the urea left behind on the blade concentrates into a salt strong enough to scorch the very grass you were trying to feed. Spray when the temperature is under about 75 degrees and the leaf stays wet long enough for the lawn to actually drink it in. Use a simple pump sprayer, walk at a steady pace, and do 2 light passes in opposite directions rather than one heavy one, because even coverage is what gives you an even color with no streaks. Get the timing right, keep the dose light, feed the soil underneath, and that pale, hungry lawn becomes the one on the street everybody slows down to look at. Now go mix your $3 batch.